Let me begin by first congratulating you and all the honorable members of this, the 12th session of the National Assembly, who were elected to serve the people of Guyana, albeit legitimately or otherwise. Mr. Speaker, I must also express heartiest congratulations to my colleagues in the public service who went beyond the call of duty to ensure we have Budget 2020. Before I go into the meat of my presentation, Mr. Speaker, it is necessary for me to respond to the honorable member, Mr. Nigel Dharamlal. He spoke and said in this honorable house that this is a very auspicious building, indicating that this is the area where the national recount took place, and that we are sitting on this side of the house as the legal opposition. And I am saying, Mr. Speaker, that we are sitting on this side of the house with legitimate votes. But there is no guarantee that they are sitting on that side of the house with legitimate votes. Because, Mr. Speaker, I was a national recount agent for the APNU-AFC, and I was a part of the process where we opened the ballot boxes and there was no... Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am guided. But nonetheless, I must say that it was referred to in the presentation of the speaker before me. I guess the technical difficulties caused you not to hear it. Many of my friends in the public service made contact with me, Mr. Speaker, and they expressed dissatisfaction with this document since it deviates significantly from the national objective of a budget, which is bettering the lives of our people. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member Suzanne Rodriguez, in her presentation, said that the preparatory work on this budget started since December of 2018. Another honorable member said it took 5 weeks, and the presenter of this budget said 21 days. Mr. Speaker, the real truth is that this budget took 14 days. 14 days to alter, to suit a notorious plan. And that notorious plan, Mr. Speaker, is to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. What Vice President Honorable Jagdeo did was to take a finished budget from Winston Jordan's desk and he altered it. According to several shared opinions, Mr. Speaker, the well-created Winston Jordan budget that was on the desk of the Minister of Finance in August 2020 was severely altered. And because the Doctor of Doom wants nothing to do with irreplaceable Winston Jordan, the great pretender took his place. Mr. Speaker, from 1992 to 2015, we had 23 PPP budgets. Yes, Mr. Speaker, 23 PPP budgets. Punish poor people budget. In 2020, we are now getting PPPC budget. Punish poor people children budget. Mr. Speaker, had the Punish Poor People government embraced consultation and collaboration, which is enshrined in Article 13 of our Constitution, the Guyanese people would have gotten what they crave for, and that is a better Guyana. But the changes that were made to the Winston Jordan document was done without consultation. So it is not a people's budget, Mr. Speaker. It is a Freedom House budget that will again, Mr. Speaker, make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Mr. Speaker, the absence of those national consultations led to a presentation of a budget that was not only irrational, but one that did not address the needs of all Guyanese. And for this fundamental reason, Budget 2020 should be renamed as Disaster 2020. I say Disaster 2020, Mr. Speaker, because when one examines the theme of this document with the words protecting our people in a COVID-19 environment, we need to ask the question, why so many deaths and cases? Mr. Speaker, this regime could not have protected their own cabinet ministers. And Mr. Speaker, they could not have even protected you, Mr. Speaker. So we need to understand that this is really and truly not a people's budget. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn my attention to the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, formerly named the Ministry of Communities, and soon to be renamed the Ministry of Communities, because we will be over there in a short period of time. The mission of the ministry in 2015 was to improve the quality of life of Guyanese by promoting the development of cohesive, empowered, and sustainable communities through collaborative and integrated planning, good governance, and satisfactory service delivery. Here in 2020, under a senior and a junior, who are currently competing to see which of the offices that they will occupy, which one will look better. And there is one that is refusing to sign at the back of the receipts after spending government monies. They changed the mission, and it now reads to supervise and maintain the legal framework of a system of local and regional administration. If that is not a signal of dictatorship, then tell me what is, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it was under the same mission pre-2015. NDCs, if they wanted to spend $100, they had to run to Norman Whitaker and Ganga Prasad. $100, and that is what we are returning to. And that is what NDCs need to understand. They are returning to those days when the ministers will control their spending. Mr. Speaker, I know, Mr. Speaker, that you are intervening on the food that we ate, but I think you may need to also do some fumigation. I am hearing some mice in this honorable house, so we may need to get rid of them. They're squeaking a lot. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Communities had two programs in the ministry with several sub-programs that worked positively across this country with a staff complement of 207. Today, Mr. Speaker, after less than 2 months, the staffing at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development is 131. And it continues to deplete because Sulu and Dulu are on a witch hunting exercise. From one department alone, more than 40 hard-working Guyanese were terminated. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know how you can categorize drivers, office assistants, sweeper cleaners, and technical workers as political appointees. Mr. Speaker, I am sure that upon your ascension to this high office of Speaker of the National Assembly, you did not specify what race or what religion you want to work with in your secretariat. And that is because you, Mr. Speaker, like President Granger's 2015 to 2020 government, understand that though we may be different, we are one people, one nation, with a common destiny. Mr. Speaker, I cannot say the same for the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, because I am also there. So when they come to this house and say what people tell them, staff also speak to me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, They talk about creating 50,000 jobs, but so far they are in the process of taking away 50,000 jobs. Mr. Speaker, Comrade Dharam Lal, who spoke before me, painted a picture as though the Ministry of Communities did nothing in 5 years. Mr. Speaker, let me enlighten my friend, starting with the neighborhood democratic councils. The annual subvention to NDCs moved from $2 million in the punished poor people government to $5 million in the APNU-AFC government. The power of the minister, imagine a government, the APNU-AFC government. This government, the APNU-AFC government, we remove the power of the minister from the local authority area. We are not dictators, my friend. The power of the minister was removed from the local affairs. We pioneered several legislative amendments, and two of them are Act number 5 of 2015, the Local Government Act, and Act number 10 of 2018, the Local Authority Elections Amendment Act. Maybe Comrade Anand Prasad should ask one of his NTN staff to interpret them for him. Within 1 year of ascending into office, local government elections were held after a 20 years gap. Local government elections were held again as constitutionally due in November 2018, which represented for the first time in our post-independent history consecutive local government elections constitutionally due. In 2015, there were 65 NDCs and 6 towns. There are now 70 NDCs and 10 municipalities, increasing the coverage of electorates under a local authority area to approximately 91%. In 2018, President Granger convened the National Conference of Local Democratic Organs. The inaugural conference brought together the leadership of all 3 layers of government. This forum had the objective of learning from LDOs, local democratic organs, specifically NDCs, the challenges faced in delivering services to their communities, to examining the relationship between central, regional, and local levels of administration, and thirdly, determining how the budget for financial year 2019 could be more effective at the local level. One of the recommendations of this forum was for the strengthening of the leadership of councils through this payment of stipend. Cabinet endorsed this recommendation, and from January 2019, the leadership of all municipalities and neighborhood democratic councils, for the first time, Mr. Speaker, received a stipend paid by the central government and leadership of regional democratic councils. Regional chairpersons, including the ones that you control, started to get $300,000 a month. Vice chairpersons got $240,000 a month. Mayors of Coastland, 75,000. Mayors of Hinterland, 110,000. Deputy Mayor of Coastland, 60,000. Deputy Mayor of Hinterland, 85,000. Town clerks, 55,000. Town clerks, Hinterland, 78,000. NDC chairman, 10,000. Overseers, $40,000. And hear this, Mr. Speaker. Hear this, Mr. Speaker. These monies were on top of their salaries that they were already getting. It was an additional money to them. Between 2015 to May 2020, $3,349,436 has been spent on the project development and assistance. This program facilitated, among other activities, the Capital Fiscal Transfer Program, grant program, which provided funds to all local organs. Funds were used by council for drainage and irrigation, institutional strengthening, and infrastructure development. Since 2015, the financial support to all councils benefited from an increase in annual subvention. These, Mr. Speaker, to the honorable member is asking about UGSS money. It was used to hold programs at NPN. Since 2015, Mr. Speaker, the financial support of all councils benefited from an increase in annual subvention. These increases from 2015 to 2019 were as follows. Georgetown City Council from 22 million to 30 million. New Amsterdam Town Council from 14 million to 18 million. Corriverton Town Council from 13 million to 18 million. Rose Hall Town Council from 12 million to 18 million. Linden Town Council from 14 million to 18 million. Bartica Town Council from 14 million to 18 million. And all the new town councils, they received 18 million, 17 million, and 18 million, respectively. The Georgetown Restoration Program, Mr. Speaker, between 2015 to May 2020, $988 million was spent under the Georgetown Restoration Program to assist in building and strengthening the capacity of the mayor and city council to deliver economic and environmental services. This program focused on three areas: infrastructure development, institutional strengthening, and community participation and public awareness. Several programs were completed, including the rehabilitation of the Kitty Market Phase 1 and Phase 2, rehabilitation of East Rumbelt Market Phase 1 and 2, rehabilitation of Border Market, and rehabilitation of East La Penitence Market. Funding for constituency-led community development works, including cleaning of alleyways, installation of street lights, construction of bridges, repairs to roads, and upgrade of the park, provision of equipment, construction of a new administration building. Mr. Speaker, Georgetown under the Punish Poor People government was known as the Garbage City. We began the process of restoring it to the Garden City. The Community Enhancement Initiative, Mr. Speaker, was developed to assist local democratic organs in maintaining access and aesthetics of community social and economic facility. It was initially catered for under project development and assistance under 2018, after which it was moved to the recurrent program. Approximately 1,571 persons were employed across the NDCs. Approximately 1,098 at NDCs and 473 at municipalities. And they were employed to carry out works within the local democratic organs. This program contributes to environmental enhancement and job creation. Mr. Speaker, you cannot stand in this honorable house as honorable members and tell untruths. You have to be honest. This government had 5 short years, and what we did in 5 short years cannot be compared to what they did in 23 years, and that was to break the system of considering the poor people. We have to understand, Mr. Speaker, that developing a country requires inclusivity, requires togetherness, it requires harmony, it requires us focusing on the people of Guyana. And if Mr. Dharamlal, honorable member, and Mr. Anand Prasad, honorable member, is to understand that there is need for collaboration, there is need for consultation, then we have a far way to go as a country. Mr. Speaker, it was this APNU-AFC administration that focused on education. We focused on education, and our country is enjoying good results, and I hope that it will be better once the Honorable Member Priya Manikchand dares to continue. We believed in education,
Honorable member, unfortunately, I have to focus on your time, so you need to conclude now.
Mr. Speaker, because of the time constraints understandably imposed upon me, I wish to turn my attention to Essequibo Island's West Demerara region. That is the region, Mr. Speaker, where a large amount of work was done for the betterment or for the bettering of our people in the field of public infrastructure. And this House, Mr. Speaker, I must let you know, Mr. Speaker, in this House, there are several members on the other side that are living in Region 3, that are supposed to be representing Region 3, and none of them could have said an ill word about Region 3. And that is because, Mr. Speaker, it is this government, the APNU-AFC government, and Dr. Dr. Tandika Smith, honorable member, knows that the West Demerara Hospital is in a better state because she works there. The environment that she functions in, she knows that the male maternity ward was fixed and a number of other places. In the field of public works, Mr. Speaker, Leg 1 people, they are enjoying 100% asphaltic concrete roads. Wakenham people, 100% asphaltic concrete road. Mr. Speaker, we built...
You have to conclude. The time is up.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I appeal to the honorable members on the other side of the House. Recognize that this side of the House, we are representing legitimate electors. We are representing more than half the population of this country. And I am asking them to recognize that for the short period of time they will be in office, they need to resort to consultation and collaboration so we can move Guyana forward and better the lives of all Guyanese. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.